Hi, I'm David Nance. I'm a Spanish teacher for AIM. I teach all levels of Spanish. I've been teaching with AIM since 2014, but I've been teaching students online, Spanish to students online, since 2007. So I've got quite a bit of experience doing this. I've actually taught students all around my own home state. Is how I got started. With AIM, I teach students from all around the United States, but I've also created several different resources where people from all around the world have signed up for my courses or used websites that I've created and so forth. I've heard from people from pretty much every continent and have tens of thousands of people using some resources, hundreds of thousands have signed up for others and so forth. So I've got quite a bit of background working with people in lots of different ways online to teach them Spanish. I've also traveled quite a bit. In fact, right now I'm shooting this video in Puerto Rico. I spent a couple of years in Uruguay. I've been to Panama, Peru, set foot in Argentina and Mexico. I spent a little bit of time in Chile as well. So I like to travel when I get a chance. It gives me an opportunity to improve my Spanish, practice a little bit, keep from getting too rusty. And it gives me great experiences that I can bring into the classroom as well, so that other students that I have can benefit from the experiences that I've had also. Like a lot of people, I took Spanish in high school. I took 3 years in high school, and I felt like I got a good feel for the mechanics of the language. But like most people, I didn't feel like I could talk to anybody. I definitely wasn't fluent. It wasn't until I spent a couple of years in South America that I got that way. But that experience in South America gave me another opportunity too. I wasn't interested in the time in teaching Spanish, but I was able to see other people who came along after I did and kind of watch the way they learned the language. And it was a pretty interesting experience for me to kind of learn, even though I wasn't thinking of being a Spanish teacher, wow, this is what works for people, this is what doesn't. And of course I could see it with my own experience as well. So now, after going back to school, I got a degree in Spanish teaching, and then later I did get a degree in curriculum instruction, a master's degree in curriculum instruction, and I can use that information from school as well as my own experiences to get a really good feel for what works for people. Also, my wife and I homeschool our own children. We have 4 kids, and we take a really learning by doing approach to that. And I try to carry that over into class as well. And later in the video I'm going to talk about different ways that we incorporate some pretty unorthodox methods into our class that I think help people to really get a better feel for the language and better experience with it, so that they come out feeling comfortable with it and like they can speak Spanish, communicate with people, and do a great job. There are 2 things that set my class apart from other classes. One of those things is that we're going to have all of the levels combined, so a first year student, second year, third, or fourth year are all going to be in the same class, and I'll explain a little bit more about the justification for that in a little bit. The other thing about the class that makes it unique is that each year we're going to take a topic area, another subject really, like another class, and combine it with our Spanish class. So one year we'll do Spanish with health, another year we'll do Spanish with economics, another year we'll do Spanish with geography and anthropology, and another year we'll do Spanish in current events. So a student that's in our class for 4 straight years would get 4 years of credit for Spanish, but could also get credit for each of those other subject areas. We'll use those other classes as a focus to help us learn Spanish by using authentic materials, which will give us good practice for the different tests that your students might want to take, the AP exam and other things of that nature, and I'll explain a little bit more about that as well. I mentioned that in my class, all of our different ability levels are combined into one class, so in other words, we don't have Spanish 1, Spanish 2, 3, and 4. That's kind of unconventional, so I want to explain a little bit why we do that. Students don't really progress all in lockstep with each other. A conventional division like that means that you go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 and so forth. But really progression with the language is more like an inclined plane or slope. And so if we put everybody together, each student's able to accelerate throughout their 2 or 3 or 4 years at their own rate and make constant progress instead of having those artificial divisions. There's a couple of analogies that I like to use with it. One is a swimming pool. Think about if we go to a swimming pool, it gradually goes down like that, and it helps us to all be able to swim in the pool regardless of our ability level. Those who aren't very good swimmers or who are new or young are in the shallow end and they can have fun at the pool. Those who are better swimmers are farther down, and those who are really good can jump in off of the diving board or go down the water slides or whatever the case may be. We're all playing in the same pool, but we're having a good time where we feel comfortable, and it doesn't matter that not everybody is in the same position. The other analogy I like to use is of a college football team. Whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior, you're going to all play on the same team, but throughout your 4 years, your skill level improves and improves and improves. So you get much better by the end, even though you've been playing on the same team as people who were better than you and people who were not as good as you were. By taking that same approach with our class, it allows us to learn from each other and each progress at our own rate instead of having that artificial division of year 1, year 2, and year 3. But we still meet the requirement of 2 years of Spanish or whatever a university might require. We just don't call it the same thing, although we can even do that for a transcript if you need us to. That each year we're going to take a different subject area and have that be our focus of study. The first year we will do health in Spanish, the next year we will do economics in Spanish, the year after that we'll kind of do a combination of geography and anthropology in Spanish, and the fourth year we'll do current events in Spanish. And that cycle will just repeat itself, so a student can jump in any year, and if they take Spanish with us for 4 years, they'll go through the whole cycle. If they don't, that's okay too. Each student's situation will differ, but any student can join at any point and leave at any point. They'll benefit one way or the other, so it doesn't matter. They're not required to start a particular time or end at a particular time. Let's take a close look at each of those 4 things. With health in Spanish, we're going to focus on things like human growth and development, good nutrition, dietary guidelines. We'll take a look at disease prevention, and in particular we're going to look at how these types of things are handled in the Spanish-speaking world. So for instance, with disease prevention, mosquito-borne illnesses are a big problem in lots of parts of the Spanish-speaking world, so we would look at things related to that, how various governments are handling it, and all of the research that we do and the practice that we do will be with authentic materials from the various governments, various organizations, newspapers, news websites, and other types of things to give students real hands-on practice with authentic materials, which will give them a great experience for the AP exam, prep exam, or other tests that they might be interested in taking later on down the road. For Spanish and economics, we would look at things like the gross domestic product of different countries, imports and exports, how government actions affect the economies in various places, and again, our specific focus will be on how these issues are relevant to the Spanish-speaking world. Again, we'll use the real materials from various countries so that the students have that great practice with speaking, reading, listening, and writing. With our Spanish and geography and anthropology, we'll look at things like the different geographies that exist, the Caribbean, the Central America, South America, Spain, the interactions between these countries. We'll look at issues like population growth, immigration, crime, other things like that. And then with current events, of course, we'll have to play that one by ear a little bit more because current events change all the time. They are current events. But we would focus heavily on the way those are covered in the news with various Spanish news stations and other resource materials. So again, each year it would be possible to give dual credit for the content area and credit, of course, for Spanish with this real hands-on type of practice that's going to be very beneficial to the students. There's an expert named Stephen Krashen, one of the best-known experts in second language acquisition, and he talks a lot about comprehensible input and that's the most important thing for a person who is trying to acquire language. He talks a lot about the difference between learning a language, which we would think of as book Spanish, and acquiring a language, which is being able to actually use the language, understand it, and produce it. And to him, comprehensible input is the biggest thing there. And so the materials that we use are going to be geared toward helping students at any point be able to understand the authentic Spanish materials that we use in the class. You may be wondering what our class is going to look like from week to week. Each week, students will be given a certain task to accomplish. Normally that task will be to create some sort of educational material related to our subject area. For instance, during our Health in Spanish year, they might create a poster or a video that explains about the importance of nutrition or about the importance of avoiding mosquito-borne illnesses or whatever particular topic we're looking at for that week. They will be provided with that task that they know they need to accomplish, and then they'll be provided with lots of different materials that have already been created related to that particular topic, and they can use those materials to learn about the topic and of course to practice their Spanish. As I mentioned before, the materials will always start kind of at the shallow end and they'll move deeper, and students will be able to pick and choose the materials that they need to use, the ones that push them to learn more, but that they're able to understand at least the gist of. So your beginning students will use the first couple of listed materials, more advanced students will kind of work their way farther down the list, and those who are very advanced will probably be pulling in things from each of those resources as they complete their task each week. Now during our weekly live class, the students will have already done that work for the week and will come together and it will be an opportunity for us to share. And so we'll have a chance, of course, to be speaking to each other in Spanish, but also working to correct one another's Spanish. We can discuss things that we did understand and didn't understand, and we'll pick one student's work each week to kind of polish up and post on our class website, which by the end of the year will kind of be like a working portfolio for the whole class that will cover all of the different topics that we've learned throughout the year. Again, this will be the case for our health in Spanish, for our economics in Spanish, for our geography and anthropology in Spanish, and for our current events in Spanish courses, each in their respective year. I've enjoyed teaching with AIM since 2014, and I look forward to lots of great years to come. If you have any questions about the classes, please contact me. You can email me at davidrnance@gmail.com, or you can see my class website that I've set up as well. The link for that website is with this video. I look forward to hearing from you and working with your students in the coming year.